Hi guys, let's talk about the Sony ecosystem because I've heard people that kind of say it's not that great, and it's every bit as good as Fuji or better. And so if you're into the Fuji system, you could easily get into the Sony system and not have any issues. So let's start with the lenses because obviously that's the biggest deal. I've heard the angry photographer say things like, "Oh, they don't make their own lenses and they don't have enough lenses and all this crap." And I just wanted to say that's garbage. Do they have the sports lenses right now? No, I'm sure they're working on them. They've had the FE mount since I think 2012 maybe. So, and their cameras weren't good enough to make sports lenses for it then. So, that's the only thing that really was holding them back. So, let's talk about the lenses. Like I said, let's start on the wide. And I'm going to count the lenses that are coming out that have been announced this year because I think it's only fair. If you look at it compared to Fuji, they have at least as many or more actually lenses than the Fujifilm system does. So people who say there's not enough lenses is ridiculous. If you want to talk price, that's a whole nother thing. I get that. Price is there's a huge difference there, and I get that. But you're talking about full frame lenses compared to lenses that are made specifically for APS-C. So, let's start on the wide angle. You have a 12 to 24 f4 that's coming out. So that's the widest I've seen from Sony. Actually, there's a rectilinear Voigtlander that's 10 millimeters. So it's actually super wide and it's rectilinear. So that's even wider and even better. But that's manual only. I kind of wanted to focus on the autofocus lenses because I think that if you're going to buy a system, you're mainly going to buy autofocus lenses. So then you go from that to the one that's coming out, the 16 to 35 f2.8 that's coming out in August. So that fills another wide angle lens gap. And then you've got also the Zeiss wide angle lenses. You've got 18 millimeter f2.8 Zeiss Batis, the 25 f2 Zeiss Batis, and the 135 f2.8 Batis, and a 85 1.8 Batis lens that are all autofocused, and they all have weather sealing, and they all have optical image stabilization, I do believe, as well, built into the lens. So that's just from Zeiss, and I'm counting those because they are autofocus and they are native and they perform natively. The other thing, that the angry photographer said was, they don't make their own glass. And he commented to me, I was like, so who makes the G Master lenses? He says Zeiss. Now, whether he actually knows that or if anybody knows that or not, I don't know personally. But if that's true, why wouldn't you want your best lenses made by Zeiss? That's like saying, oh, our company has them made by Leica because that's just terrible. No, it's stupid. It's amazing. Okay, if I'm going to have my lenses made by a third company or a third person company, I'm going to have it, the best possible, and that is Zeiss and Leica. Zeiss is incredible. They make incredible optics, and the G Master lenses are no exception, so that's a stupid argument. It really was. So then we're going to go from the 16 to 35 to the 24 to 70 f2.8 for G Master lens for this camera, which even the angry photographer said it kills his Nikon, the Nikon variant. Then of course you've got the 70 to 200 f2.8, which is incredible. You've got a 70 to 300 and a 70 to 400 that are coming out. The 7400 is coming out. I'm not sure if it's July. I think it is. So you've got every focal range covered, and then you have f4 variants of the same, where you have a 16 to 35 f4, which is Zeiss, Sony Zeiss, and then you have a 24 to 70 f4 Sony Zeiss. Then you have a 70 to 200 f4, which is a Sony G Master lens. And then there's also even a 24 to 200 something, 224 millimeter or something like that, which isn't a very fast lens, but it's an all-in-one zoom, which, I mean, I don't recommend, but I do have an 18 to 135 for my Fujifilm. So they have like everything covered, and they continue to make lenses for the system, and they are incredible lenses. So people who say the ecosystem is bad is garbage, especially considering that you can do so many things with high-speed sync, whereas Fujifilm, you're pretty much stuck to being tethered for high-speed sync, or using Fujifilm's flash, and that triggers another flash, which is not really that great. So, and I do believe that Fujifilm will eventually get more third-party high-speed sync capabilities, but right now they don't, and that was another reason why I wanted the Sony too, because I really wanted to shoot more creative lighting, because I really like creative lighting. So yeah, those are a lot of the lenses. There's way more lenses than that. Not to mention you can adapt A-mount lenses, you can adapt Canon lenses. The A-mount lenses, there's some amazing A-mount lenses, and you get full capabilities pretty much with that. For the most part, there are some limitations with like how much, like the speed at which the burst is and stuff like that, but actual autofocusing is actually really good on. So I just wanted to mention this because I've seen people who rip on the ecosystem for Sony, and I just think it's dumb. If you're gonna make up excuses like Ken Wheeler does about, well, all they really lack is for Fujifilm all they really lack is the sports lenses, but that's okay because I have Nikon, then you really shouldn't rip on Sony for only having basically the same or more lineup than Fujifilm does. It's just ridiculous. It really is. And I love Fujifilm. I love their glass. That's one of the reasons why I bought into the system. It's fantastic, and it's semi-affordable. It's not super affordable, but they're all really good lenses for the most part. They have a line that's a lower end lenses that you can get, kind of like the Sony with the f4s. But, you're always going to pay more for full frame lenses. Let's just get that out of the way. You're going to pay more. So if that's a big concern, then Fujifilm might be the way to go. The image quality is good. However, the high ISO performance can't hold a candle to the A9 and the Sony. It's just, and I did a wedding over the weekend, and you can see that clearly. It's not even close. If you're interested to know what this setup lens I have here, it's a 50 millimeter 1.7 Minolta, and I actually have extension tubes on it, Vivitar ones with a Photo-C adapter, and it's amazing. I gotta tell you, it's really cool. I bought the Vivitar extension tubes on eBay, and then I got this from somebody I know for free who just gave it to me, which was amazing that they did that. It was really nice of them. But yeah, it works amazing as a macro lens. It actually, I think it gets closer than 1-to-1 because, I have to be on top of things to get it in focus manually. That is only downside with it is manual focus, but it is amazing. It's really cool. And that's another thing that people don't think about with these mirrorless cameras, and Fujifilm can do it too, to an extent, adapting lenses. But the Sony system is really good with that because you do get the full frame aspect with the full frame lenses that are the old full frame film lenses. So that's really cool. But yeah, I just wanted to address that because I think it's ridiculous that people talk about the ecosystem. If they want to talk about support and things like that, whatever, that's fine. If you want to hear something honest, the camera store I go to, they said that Nikon's almost as bad as Sony for pro support, from what I've heard. From a support aspect, they said it's like terrible. Canon's by far the best. That's a fact. So, but thanks guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that explains some things. Obviously, the Sony system's going to be more expensive. So if you're an enthusiast and you just like shooting, I would probably recommend the Fujifilm. And also, these do have 1.4 and 2 times teleconverters for their long focal length lenses, like the 70 to 200 on the Sony and the 100 to 400 on the Sony. Whereas this has it for some lenses as well, like the 100 to 400. Of course, you're going to get a longer focal length with the Fujifilm because of the crop. But just wanted to mention that to you guys, talk to you guys about that a little bit. Have a good day.